My dear friends, welcome again for this week's video. This one will be episode 3 of the Valeton GP-200 MIDI functionalities series I started a couple of weeks ago. Honestly speaking, this will be part A. I needed to split this video into two different parts because otherwise it would have been too long, honestly speaking, but also I realized while preparing the main content that an introduction about some functionalities and configuration on the machine were absolutely needed to follow correctly what is coming up. So just after the intro, I'm gonna start with this first overview. Okay, the topic for this week's video is the configuration of the machine of our fantastic Valeton GP-200 in order to make it ready for configuration and use of scenes. Well, I was told, by the way, by a lot of you, a lot of friends, that last week's video was way too long. In fact, it was close to 50 minutes, so very long compared to my usual tutorials. And I understand that putting all together a lot of contents in such a long video can make it difficult to keep the pace and to follow the different steps. So I prefer to separate to macro functionality, to macro topics into part A and part B. But in the end, we will reach the expected target. As promised, since the beginning of this mini series, what we will try to do is to use our Valeton GP-200 with the addition of a functionality that is called scenes or snapshot in other much more expensive machines. Uh, these functionalities are considered very helpful by a lot of users, a lot of guitarists, because they allow an additional flexibility compared to the creation of different presets. And also, generally, all the machines that support that functionality can switch between different scenes, different configurations very quickly without a specific interruption. While generally when you switch between different patches, different presets, there is a short glitch, a short gap, even in very expensive machine, but also most importantly, effects that started normally are not extended. So if you have a 3D reverb that is repeating or a delay that is working, when you switch your patch, it is immediately stopped. You don't have the trail continue when switching between different presets. Generally speaking, of course, there are some very expensive machine that, on the other hand, goes on as a smooth separation, a smooth change between scenes. So in that case, that difference is difficult to perceive. But in any case, I would like to show you what we can do with our favorite machine. Well, before starting of the functionality of the device, of the pedal board, it is important that we understand each other when we speak about scene or snapshot, like they are called. You know that in any patch that you create within the Valeton GP-200 or any multi-effect is composed by different blocks, different effect blocks in a chain. So I suggest you to focus on the software. You see that I have already connected the machine through USB to my computer, so I will work on the software. I have version 1.5.0, but what I'm going to show you is valid for any version of the software. I know that somebody with a Mac with Catalina or so has difficulties upgrading to the last revision, and I don't see at the moment any update from Valeton fixing this, or at least I'm not aware of that. In case something changed, please let me know. In any case, if you look at the chain, you see that I selected a very simple preset that is one of the built-in preset within the machine. there is a chain of effect composed by noise reduction, volume, reverb, and whatever. You see that the grade one, as you know, the grade out ones are turned off, so they are not functioning. The point is, it would be good as a preset is composed by a lot of parameters. What blocks in which sequence, because you know that we can change the position of blocks. For example, generally I like to have the volume at the end. This way it works to increase or decrease the full volume of the patch. That is a possibility. Many suggest to put it right before modulation, delay, and reverb. This way the ambient effects are not affected by the volume. That is also another good suggestion, generally speaking. So you can change the selection. You can have the distortion before or after the amplifier. Normally it's better to have it before. You can have even strange things like having, for example, a fuzzer or something like that before the amplifier to may play like Eddie Van Halen or something like that used to have that effect in that position, so before the distortion. That is strange looking at the usual configuration of effect chain. If you are doubt about this, what are normally the suggested position for different effect blocks, just have a look at other videos in the channel. I will give you a link to this. In any case, you can select the position, you can select which blocks to have activated or deactivated, but most important than this, you can select which effect in every block decide. For example, I can use different distortions. Let's turn it on. I can use a simple tube screamer, or I can use something more more exotic or something like that. So it is possible to select whatever we want. This is what composed mainly our patch. The point is, in case, for example, you have you create a patch to create a specific tone for a song, one of your songs, or any cover you are producing. So you want to replicate a specific song or create your own tone. If you need to change something for specific parts in the song, for example, you need to increase for a moment the distortion or raise the volume for a little bit for a solo, or add additional reverb in case for the solo, for an arpeggiato part that needs to have more after effect to create three-dimensionality. You can turn on and off the effects, but it would be good if you could also change the parameters. So, for example, looking at the distortion block, I could have the gain selected to 20 for the initial part where there is an intro. Then I can increase it for a chorus, maybe raise it to 40 or even more or even to the top. And maybe when I have a solo, I would like to reduce it to 57. This change of in-depth parameters, so the single knobs of the specific effect block, and saving them in different combinations is what we normally name scene or snapshot. In my opinion, snapshot gives you better the idea of what you are speaking about, because it's like taking a picture of that specific configuration and recall it whenever you want. Of course, you can obtain the same identical results creating a different preset. You just need to double this preset, make those changes, and then you can switch between different presets instead of scenes. As I was trying to explain before, normally it is a little better if you have scenes instead of changing presets, especially when you would like to keep the trail of some effects, because if you reduce the reverb and you already started it, the stop is not immediate, is not sudden, and it sounds better. And there is no glitch, there is no gap, even if, honestly speaking, in the last updates of the firmware, in my opinion, the Valeton has very, very, very small gap when switching patch. So if your song has a
little pause between the two different effects, you will not feel a lot of and will not feel a bad delay. So honestly speaking, it can be used like that. And if you are happy like that, well, you can stop here because I believe that you can go on like that and nothing is required for you to go on with that. But if you believe that using scenes or making small changes to a chain when needed would be welcome for you, please go on. Well, the Valeton has some built-in functionalities that can use. It is not at the moment possible. We will see a partial solution, a partial fix to this in next week's video, but it is possible to at least turn on and off some effects. That can be done using the control buttons that we will configure in a moment. It is also possible to change some parameters moving the quick knobs, but of course you will need to touch the machine and rotate them. It is also possible to use the expression pedal for the wah, but also for the volume or other parameters because it can be configured. So before looking at what we are missing, let's have a look on what we have already available built in out of the box in this fantastic machine. To show you this, please forgive me if I'm gonna go through something that maybe you already know perfectly well, because it's described in the instruction manual, so I'm not showing you anything. It's not something I discovered myself. It's written clearly within the instruction manual, but I would like to review it with you in order to understand how it can help us to reach the target we want. You know that the pedal board, the switches, and including the expression pedal can be configured in different ways. It's also possible to change what is shown in the display. So if we press in the software the gear button on top, sorry, not here, I did, give me a second. Yeah, okay, I'm referring to the gear button that is on top left corner. If I press it, we are going to the settings, so it is possible to configure a lot of things. One of the most interesting one is the display mode. If you want, I generally like to see the chain, the effect chain, as you can see on my screen at the moment. It is a combination. It is possible to have it in modality, in foot switch modality. This way you have the name of the patch and you see what is the functionality associated to each button. And in my opinion, this can be very helpful in this for this use. Or you can focus on the patch that is shown very big, and you just have the quick knobs available and nothing else. For what we are gonna do, I think that having a look at the foot switch modality can be helpful, so we can focus on that specific moment. So I'm strongly suggesting you to use this modality. But if we press in the left-hand side menu foot switch, it is also possible to configure all the foot switch in different mode, because it is possible to have patch mode, stomp mode, or user mode. That is what was used. In patch mode, you see that the you can select it from here or from here. It's irrelevant. In patch mode, you see that there is a focus on the change of the patches. So, in simple words, you have a patch CA and another. So it is possible to, give me a moment, I'm resetting. Okay, this way you are going to the standard modality, because I made a configuration that can confuse you otherwise. Give me a second, returning here. So, well, okay, let's return here. Let's go to foot switch. You see that in
patch mode out of the box, because even here it is possible to make any change. The buttons are configured in order to have, look at the names. Foot switch 1 is this one, 2 is this one. There is a drawing that shows you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you see that you can select what the foot switch does when pressed lightly or when you keep it pressed. So you have two functionalities for each button. In particular, in this configuration, a quick pressure on the four buttons here changes A, B, C, D, like it's stamped on the machine. So it is what is considered the basic configuration. Also, you see that there is no configuration for holding the buttons for these four ones. Instead, the top line is configured to make bank minus, bank plus, and it is even stamped here. The third one is control 1, and the fourth one is just for tap, like tap tempo or something like that. So you have just one control button. This is the basic configuration. You see the long press here has no configuration. Also, if you look better, you see that it is possible to configure one functionality if you press button 1 and button 5. So if with your foot you press these two together, you have an additional functionalities. The same for 5 plus 6, so these two. The same for 6 plus 7, so these two. And the same for 7 plus 8, these two. And in this modality, it switches to MIDI modality. If I press it, it moved to... So let's go back. Okay, it does make confusion. Some of you ask me, how do we switch to MIDI modality? This way. This is the basic patch mode configuration. And you see you have only one control button. Keep in mind this name, control buttons. If we move to stomp mode, another modality, you see that we have a difference, because now we have patch minus, patch plus, just look at the screen of the desktop, drum, tap tempo, keeping drum pressed activates the looper, and keeping tap pressed activates the tuner. But these four buttons does not select anymore A, B, C, D, but they become four control buttons. I personally believe this configuration to be functional for, I would say, anybody, because you will see that it is possible to associate many activities to a single control button. It is also possible to have a user mode. In user mode, everything is an additional memory that you have available, where you can configure everything however you want. You see my user mode, but you can customize it however you want. I decided to have short press patch minus, short press patch plus, long press bank minus, long press bank plus. So two functionalities, short and long press, and then all these control 1, control 2, control 3, 4, 5, and 6. So to have 6 control buttons. Also, I decided that these two buttons together, 5 and 6, activated the drum, and still 7 and 8 to activate the MIDI. It's just a choice I made. I wanted these two to activate the looper and the tuner, like in stomp mode, but it was my idea to have 6 control buttons instead of only 4. But as I said, you can customize each one of them. The first two, patch mode and stomp mode, has a name assigned by the factory, but they are simply 3 different configurations that you can change in anything. If in stomp mode I want FX3 to be control 8, I can do it. I just need to select it. So it's not fixed. So you have the utmost freedom available. And by the way, since firmware 1.4, 1.0, each buttons can become control buttons. So you can have 8 control buttons. That, in my opinion, makes thing peculiar, because have a look at the moment. Let me close this. I'm keeping stomp mode. So in stomp mode, I will have patch minus, patch plus, drum tap tempo, keeping press looper, tuner, and 4 control buttons. That's what I'm gonna keep for the moment. So I'm gonna close this. In this case, I will have this kind of configuration. But consider that if I selected to have 8 buttons as control buttons, each one of them, have a look at the effect chain. I have 1. Forget the noise. Let's skip for the moment the volume, cab and amp because they should be always activated. If you look at the remaining effects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. This means that you could associate each button to each effect pedal, if you want, that's effect pedal simulation, like if you had a real pedal board with all these 8 buttons and you could activate or bypass each one of them whenever you want. So just an on-off for each one of them. That is a possibility and can be done very easily. The functionality of the buttons, of the control buttons, are defined in the patch configuration, not in the global configuration. In the global configuration, you decide if these buttons have a fixed functionality or if they become, for example, a control button. If they become a control button, in the preset, you can decide each control button what is doing. For example, if we go again now, so let me show you for real that possibility. If I go to foot switch, I decide to have user mode or even stomp mode with 8 control buttons. 4 here, and let's do the other 4 on top. Control 5, Control 6. Of course, you can also have 2 different buttons doing the same thing, if you prefer. You don't want to risk missing something. Look at this. Now I have the bottom line 1, 2, 3, 4. And the top line 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 control buttons. This is the functionality. Don't look at the screen because the display is not updated like this. So I'm sorry, but it is only showing you the default configuration. So if you are customizing it as I did, this will not reflect what is the real situation. But in any case, now we have 8 control buttons. If I look within the patch, as we said, I would like to associate the control buttons to these 8 effects. Noise reduction, pre-effect, wah pedal, on off, I mean, distortion, cabinet, amp and cabinet, equalizer. Oh, sorry, not the one I meant. Noise reduction, pre-effect, distortion, equalizer, modulation, delay, reverb, and also the one. Okay, so let's press the gear in the patch, and you see that I can do whatever I want. If I want the Control 1 to toggle pre, I just need to select 1. Control 2, I want it to toggle the wah pedal. This way you can bypass it. And then you change it with the expression pedal, of course. For Control 3, I would like to change distortion. And Control 4, I would like to deactivate noise reduction. Sorry, the order is not exactly the same as in the chain, but I'm confident that you can follow me. Control 5, we would like it to activate the equalizer. Control 6 for the modulation. Control 7 for the delay, and Control 8 for the reverb. Okay? Now, this is the configuration I did. The expression setting can do a lot of things. Can have 2 modalities. In modality A, can change the volume. In modality B, can change the wah position. So if I press it, it is changing its modality. So now with the hands I'm not able to do it because it's hard, but in any case it is possible to do it. By the way, you see that it can change different parameters, not only one. So the configuration can be really accurate if you want. So now let's try this. According to what we did, these 8 buttons should turn on off each one a different effect, correct? So we are expecting it to work oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I forgot to show you one thing, and that is also the reason why the display did not update. Let's return to the gear, to the configuration, the general configuration, foot switch. You see that we wanted to have stomp mode that was already configured with control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This page shows what is the configuration saved for that option modality. But to switch to that modality, I need to select it here. Sorry. So if here it was still in patch mode, that's why also the screen was showing you only the patch mode. If I select a stomp mode, you see that it is also updated, and I have control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is even better. Sorry for my mistake. I did it a long time ago, and I was skipping this functionality. So let's close it. Now it is configured as expected. Now let's go back to the patch. If I press the button, you see that control 1 was associated to the pre-effect, to this one, to the pre-effect. So if I press, you see it's grayed out and it is turned on again. The control 2 was associated to the wah-wah pedal, and again it's toggling. It's not just turning on, it's turning on or off exactly, and if it was a stomp pedal. Then the button 3 was for distortion. I hope you can see it. So here we go. It is also possible to have the same functionality for noise gate. You see, pressing the 4th button. By the way, you see that the color is changing when it is toggled. It's changing between red and green. So you know if you are in initial mode or updated mode. So we are expecting that also equalizer. Sorry, here equalizer is turned modality, modulation, equalizer, modulation, and also delay and reverb with the last 2. And that is a possibility, the possibility to control each block, at least each of the blocks that you can turn on and off. Of course, it makes no sense turning on and off the volume or the cab or the amplifier. That's why I excluded them from this list. So I would say that having 8 buttons, it is possible to select the modality for each block in the standard effect chain. So that is something really, really interesting. And in particular, this allows us to toggle any effect on and off. But the functionalities are much, much more interesting, because if I return to patch setting, have a look at the screen. You see that for each control button, 1, 2, 3 until 8 in this case, if you don't need 8, you can configure, we have seen in the general options, only 4, for example, or 6, or 3, or 2, or 1, whatever you want. You see that the flags for each block are not excluded, are not mutually exclusive. I can select more than one. So it is possible for each pressure on one of these control buttons to not only activate but toggle different effects. And that means that toggle means that their status is switched. If they are on, they are turned off. If they are off, they are turned on. This allows us also to change between two different effects. Let's have a look. For example, now I would like to, let's imagine I have the boost turned off. So let me try to show you some possible examples. Well, give me a moment. Okay, let's turn on for the. So let's turn off. Well, we will see how we can, for example, activate a boost and a reverb for a solo, or maybe alternate a clean with the delay option with a distortion without the delay. Let's have a look how it can be done. Let me hide the title for the moment because it makes confusion. As I said, for example, let's imagine that we want to have a standard mode where the boost is deactivated. We don't have a boost available. That is needed, for example, for a solo. And also, we don't want to have even the reverb. Let's imagine, so you see they are both turned off. So I would like to use Ctrl 1, this one, to move to solo snapshot, in this case, if you want, in the scene where I'm making the solo. So I would like it to activate both the pre-effect to have the boost and also the reverb. Okay? Now it's difficult to, well, I'm moving the block just to allow you to see them together, so it's better. Now, if I press this button, they are both turned on together or turned off together. So they are both toggled together. I cannot change the amount of reverb or the type of reverb, but I can turn it on and off. Consider the other possibility we could have. That is, for example, we want to have a situation, we start from a situation where the reverb is turned off. Let me move it here, this way it's easier to understand. The reverb is turned off. The reverb is turned on, the distortion is turned off. I have a compressor. So let's imagine this configuration. I'm starting with one of those fantastic 80s arpeggios where a compressor is required, where a reverb is required, where a chorus, generally speaking, is required. I'm moving all close to each other to show you better. So we want to have this kind of combination where these three are all activated together. So here, for example, as a delay, I can have an echo. Or as a reverb, and even modulation with the chorus. Modulation, delay, modulation, and reverb all together, the full package. So all these four: compression, delay, chorus, and reverb all together. And I want then to move to another modality where I'm keeping only the reverb and the distortion, but I want compressor, delay, and modulation to be turned off. Okay? In this case, what is gonna happen? The difference is that I want the distortion to go on and the other three to go off. We can do it, for example, with Ctrl 2. So going to Ctrl 2, we want it to activate, to toggle distortion, so it will turn on. We want it to turn off the compressor. We want it to turn off the modulation and the delay. Okay? So, if we have a look at that, now you see that the distortion is off, reverb is off, and then I'm not increasing the size. Have a look at that. Button 2, When I press it, this is what happens. Distortion is turned off. The other three blocks is turned on, and the other three blocks are turned off. I moved to the distortion rhythmics, if you want. Forgive me for the. Don't look at the sequence in the chain. It was just to keep the effects close to each other, so it was easier for you to look at it. What is the limit of this possibility? That is, in my opinion, quite interesting. The limit is that it can only toggle. So I cannot save a configuration where it is keeping, for example, well, I need to make the difference game. I need to understand what is supposed to change. Otherwise, I could turn off something that is not what I wanted to do. So it's important to have a specific sequence and to understand what are the steps between each other. For example, if I wanted to return to the initial configuration, if I press the button 1, it turns on the compressor and turns off the reverb. Instead, what we wanted to do at the beginning was to turn both on, but as the reverb was already on, it turned it off. So it will always toggle between the two different values. As far as I know, for the moment, there is no way to tell it turn it on, and if it is on, keep it on, or turn it off, and if it is already off, keep it off. It is something that is not possible. It is always changing its status. So it's a single activity. So it needs some planning to use it effectively, because you need to understand what you really need in what specific sequence, and it can be a little frustrating. In my opinion, if you are in need to create a complex configuration, great differences between modalities, I believe it is better to consider the possibility to use different patches. By the way, in Valeton, having banks is very helpful, because you can have four configuration in a single bank, and you can change them using the 4 buttons. The gap, as I said, is close to negligible, is not even I cannot even feel it in many situations, especially if we are moving from a clean configuration to a distorted one to a higher power one. So in 90% of the situations you can do anything using your standard change of presets, and it can be really helpful. But if you need something even more accurate, or switching just something, or maybe you have a perfect tone, you don't really want to change a lot, but for example, and it is a common use in any pedal board, you are switching from a rhythmics to a solo, so you want to have more medium to reduce the bass and increase the volume, because you need to come out from the mixer to come up and not be hidden by other instruments, or get confused with the bass or something like that. You can activate or deactivate the equalizer, for example, or even a boost to have this activity. This is a normal behavior in any pedal board, even the analogic ones used generally to obtain that kind of result. So it is possible to replicate that functionality. Of course, a lot of multi-effects, as I said, very, very expensive multi-effects, allows you to create real scenes that are pictures of the situation in the utmost details, including having, for example, the same compressor activated but with the sustain and the volume at different values, and so on, and switch seamlessly between each other. Okay, that is a possibility provided by advanced multi-effects. Consider that 99% of professional guitarists are using analogic pedal boards. In those cases, that is not possible. You cannot even activate or deactivate easily many pedals contemporary. There are some guitarists that create a different effect chain and then switch between different effect change with the computer. So everything can work. I think that we have a lot of possibilities already with this device in a live, in any situation. But in the next part B of we did this introduction, we have seen what we can do and what we cannot do. Speaking of scenes as snapshots, but using the MIDI functionalities of the device, it is possible to obtain even something more and easy to control. We are not reaching 100% the result of a perfect snapshot, but we can get close enough. We will see it in the next video. So this is all for today's movie, for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. In the end, it came up to be still a long video until here. Thank you if you were able to follow me until the end, and I hope that you found this interesting. In any case, feel free to leave me comments, likes, or whatever, and any feedback is welcome because it can help me improve my contents, provide different um, details, explain better topics that maybe was not so clear. So feel free to tell me because I'm generally really doing good use of your suggestion and they help me understand if I am going in the right direction or not, or if I need to fix anything. In any case, I'm renewing to you the invitation for next video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel this way and hit the bell. This way you will be notified when it will be available. Also, by the way, it will be available in advance for subscriber of the channel, but just be patient and it will become public in a week or so. So you don't need to wait very long for having it available. Thank you again for watching and bye bye.